Good afternoon. What is going on, Niner fans? How are we doing? This is day 3 of free agency, but it's actually technically day 1 because today's the official day of the new league year. It's officially the new league year as of 15 minutes ago. How the hell is everybody doing? The 49ers did make a little bit of a move today. We'll talk about that. That's pretty much our main topic of today. I want to talk about the edge rusher situation because yesterday the 49ers lost quite a bit of players. Two of them were pretty important players in the rotation of the defensive line. You had Charles Amenahu and Samson Ebicam. I know people were upset because we lost those guys. They were very good rotational players. They had over 1,100 snaps between them played on the team. I mean, a lot of time spent on the team. They had, about 10 sacks between them, 10 sacks between them. Solid production out of those two guys. They were good depth players, good rotational pieces on the line, and they went and got paid $47 million combined together. Both of those guys got paid $47 million combined, and that's what the 49ers do. They go and get these players on the line that may be mid-tier guys that nobody really knows. They've done it many times. Arden Key, Charles Ebicam, Samson Ebicam, Charles Amenahu, and Kerry Hyder. So they get these players like that. So you got several players, and then the 49ers take them in, and they make them really good because they have Kris Kocurek. You got this guy, Kris Kocurek, the defensive line coach, and it's like a factory for him. He's like, all right, let me go start cooking, see what I can do. I got Arden Key, boom, he goes to Seattle, got paid a lot, comes back, and, he's relevant. He got Charles Amenahu, who they traded for him a couple years back, and it made him really good. He's 25, and he got paid $20 million for the Chiefs. Samson Ebicam, he was on the Rams. He comes into the Niners, solid production, 4 sacks, a couple years. He had 5 sacks last year, and he got paid $27 million from the Colts, And then Arden Key, a guy that had 3 sacks in his career before he came to the Niners, an absolute bust of a player, comes to the Niners, and he was a very key rotational player. Got paid with the Jaguars, and now he got paid with the Titans. So that's what Kris Kocurek does. So I wasn't worried about losing all these defensive linemen. And today they got their first one. They got their first edge rusher of the day to kind of replace those guys. Again, it's Clelin Ferrell. He was a former first-round pick. He was a number 4 pick in 2019, actually, the same draft that Nick Bosa was in, number 2 pick. So you got Clelin Ferrell and Nick Bosa now on the same team. They were on the same draft together. Now, Clelin Ferrell has some talent. He has some athleticism. He has 10 sacks in his career. He's a bust, though, for a number 4 pick. He didn't really hit his potential. But with Kris Kocurek, you can take his talent. You can teach him, how to be successful on your team and turn his career around. So that is basically what, the magic is for the 49ers. They have that guy, Kris Kocurek, who just comes in and he just changes everybody around. He changes, players' fortunes, man. He's like a magician. He goes out there and somehow he has this ability to turn players' careers around on the defensive line. So, again, it's one of those things where you look at the player and you're like, it's not a splashy move. But 49ers get the most out of him. And this guy, Clelin Ferrell, again, he was pretty solid coming out of college. He was drafted number 4 pick. If you look at the production between him and Arden Key, let's take a look at this. So there were the stat predictions comparisons between them. Arden Key and Clelin Ferrell. So in 4 years with the Raiders, Clelin Ferrell has 10 sacks. Arden Key had 3 sacks in 3 years with the Raiders. In 49ers, Arden Key had 6.5 sacks in 1 year. He got paid a lot of money since he left the 49ers. He became a solid rotational player around the league. Now, we'll see what Clelin Ferrell can do. It's not guaranteed that he's going to do good, but at the end of the day, it's a guy that that could come in, and if he figures out the system like everybody else has done, they'll be okay. That's what the 49ers do. They have a certain way they go about doing things. They know they can lose players. They'll probably make Clelin Ferrell come in and get 5 to 6 sacks. He'll get paid twice as much as he would have got, he got paid this year from the 49ers. And then they'll go and find somebody else. That's what they do. And if he does pretty good and goes to another team, they'll get a compensatory pick out of it. The 49ers, they've cracked the code. They know the system. They know how it works. You go get a guy that's just mid-tier, just nobody really wants him, but he has some talent, underrated type player. You bring him in, you fix him, and then boom, he does good for you. He's a productive player. He's part of your rotation, and then boom, he'll go get paid, and then boom, you go get a draft pick, a compensatory pick, and you replace him that way. So honestly, I think it was a good move. And it's funny to me because okay, imagine this is what they're doing with like these mid-level players, these lower tier players. They're to me and you, they're not elite players, right? They're NFL players though, so they're still good. They're good. They're talented athletes, but in the grand scheme of the NFL, they're at the bottom rung of the league, right? And they're turning them into pretty good players. Now imagine if they go get an elite player, what they do, and that's what they do with their big core players like a Nick Bosa. They've turned him into an absolute monster. Fred Warner, guys like that. Look what they do to those elite players. So 49ers are a great place in terms of developing players and bringing them in and replacing people. And that's why I wasn't too worried about losing Ebukam and Charles Omenihu. Those two guys got paid $47 million between them. $47 million is a lot of money for two edge rushers. Like, do you guys think that the 49ers would have been able to sign those two guys at that price? No. And I feel so happy for them. They got paid and they deserve to get paid. So at the end of the day, man, congrats to them. Congrats to Charles Omenihu and Ebukam and everybody else that comes in and just gets their money. They're out of this. But I will say this, and I said this last night. Not Charles Omenihu, but Kris Kocurek deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a paycheck from these guys or some percentage of how much they get paid. A very nice Christmas card at the very least. Because Kris Kocurek, man, he comes in and he just churns out some talent out of the defensive line. It's amazing what he does to these players. So Jason says Ferrell is going to be a steal. Jason says Ferrell versus Drake Jackson. That camp's going to be competing. I like that too. Hold on. Let's see. We got some news. Oh, we got some news. We got some more news. We got some news. Matt Barrows is reporting that, let's see, they did not. Oh, yeah. Matt Barrows is reporting that Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles is now a free agent. Oh, wow. Let's see. Let's get this posted up. The 49ers did not tender restricted tender Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, and he is now an unrestricted free agent. Wow. Well, let's see. That's one guy they didn't bring back. So Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, looks like they're not retaining him on the team. Let's get that posted up there. Yeah, well, what do you guys think about that? Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles will no longer be back with the 49ers. He's an unrestricted free agent now. Good luck to him. Breaking news. But yeah, I'll get back to what I was saying with Drake Jackson and Clelin Ferrell. Drake Jackson, honestly, he's got a golden opportunity to step up and really, really take his role in this line because they lost, like we said, Ebukam and Omenihu. And now you have Drake Jackson who can come in and take a lot of those reps. And he's got to work on his strength and his conditioning. That's what Kyle Shanahan had mentioned this offseason. That's how he can improve. And now you have a guy in Drake Jackson who year 2 should take a big leap. Big leap in year 2. So we'll see what happens with Drake Jackson in his second year with the 49ers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens again with Drake Jackson and how he can improve. But this is, to me, saying, okay, we got rid of these veterans, Charles Omenihu and Samson Ebukam, and now we're going to put our chips in with Drake Jackson. He has to get stronger. He has to go get his conditioning up, go work on his strengthening and everything. And if he does, then I think that's a guy that will be able to come in and make his name known. And he's going to become a solid pass rusher. If he could be a 5 to 6 sack type guy in his second year, that's a huge improvement. And he'll be a lot cheaper than a guy like Samson Ebicam. He'll be a lot cheaper than a guy like Charles Omenihu, who, again, those two guys got paid a lot of money. So if you can get the most out of Drake Jackson, then you're capitalizing on your gains. And I think that Drake Jackson will improve this year. Kyle sent him a message and he says, "Hey man, you need to get your strength up. You need to go work on yourself, go get yourself strong," because he didn't, really get to the point where he was strong enough to, make it through a full season. That's what Kyle said. He said, you weren't really strong enough. It's tough when you compare the NFL game versus the college game. And that's what he says. In college, yeah, he was maybe able to get through a season, but it's a whole different story in the NFL. And he didn't, he wasn't active towards the end of the season. It's unfortunate, but it's one of those things where Drake Jackson has to take that next step and really understand what he needs to do to get better, to be able to play in the NFL, at a high level. So, I think Drake Jackson's a guy that's going to have to step up. But right now, I still feel the 49ers maybe need one more edge rusher because at the moment you have Drake Jackson, you have Nick Bosa, you have Alex Barrett, and Clelin Ferrell. So to me, they still need to make one more big move at edge. Well, maybe not big, but another guy on depth. But they could also draft someone, in the upcoming draft next month. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the 49ers and their edge rushers. But again, I do think that at the end of the day, Kris Kocurek and his ability to, get the most out of everybody, on that D line is going to be very important. That's why I'm okay with, losing Ebicam and Omenihu. I like this signing. I think it was a good low-key, underrated signing. Clelin Ferrell definitely could be a guy that could come in and get 5 to 6 sacks. He had 10 in his career, and the 49ers are a team that really know how to develop. Players. Do I still think we could get Slay? It's a possibility for sure. But the 49ers have to, clean up some cap space. They got to do a few things here and there. I think it's a possibility, but it depends on the price. I think that they have to go and restructure Christian McCaffrey's deal. And if Slay wants to take a little bit of a lesser contract, he's still a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's still a great player. A lot of people say, "Oh, he's old, whatever." Yeah, he's 32 years old, but he's still a high quality player. He still can get paid money. Stephon Gilmore, he's getting paid money, and he's 32 years old too. So to me, if you're a good player, you're going to get paid accordingly. So I think it's definitely a possibility, but that has to happen with a few more restructures. Because last night when the 49ers restructured the contract of Fred Warner, you got to keep in mind that some of that money is going to be used for free agents, or not free agents, but the NFL draft, because they need to keep about $9 million for the NFL draft. So Jason says Kubiak and Wilkes, defensive coaches. You got to remember that too, for sure. You have Steve Wilkes, our new defensive coordinator. We'll see how he works with these players on that defensive line and the defensive backfield. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens with the 49ers and the defense with new Steve Wilkes, the new defense coordinator. I'm excited for the guy. So Kristen says, once we get Lamar, Slay, Orlando Brown, and OBJ, it's over. Could you imagine if we got all those guys? Definitely wouldn't happen, but it would be crazy. Get Lamar, Slay. I don't think the 49ers get any of those guys. Orlando Brown, he wants to play. He wants to get paid like a left tackle, so I would assume he wants to play like a left tackle. So we already have a left tackle. OBJ, I don't think we're going to get him. I think the Packers are going to make a move for him. That's one of the wish lists. Not the Packers, the Jets. I keep mixing it up. I think the Jets might go and get OBJ. It's one on their wish list. Slay, there's an opportunity. Lamar Jackson, I definitely don't think we're getting Lamar Jackson. I see a lot of rumors out there, but it's not a possibility. I mean, would it be amazing? Of course it would be amazing. We would all love to see Lamar Jackson on the 49ers, but it's a pipe dream, and it's not a realistic pipe dream. So Bring back the free agency game again tonight on IG Live. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if there's many left, but we can play it with whatever scraps are left. We'll play it with whatever scraps are left. For sure, we will. We'll do it. We'll do it. A man says, I called it. I told you Clelin Ferrell was coming here. It's a good move, man. It's a very good move, honestly. Why do you think we are making no more splashes? Or do you think we make another splash? Again, it's going to come down to cap space and the money. I feel like right now we're good where we're at. If they restructure some more, then maybe we'll make another move. But the 49ers, they like to make, smaller tier signings. I still think they might get another player or two, but we'll see how the rest of the off season goes. But I do think that maybe they'll look at restructuring the guy. If they get one more restructure, then I could for sure see them making one more splash. But again, you got to remember the Fred Warner restructure was basically them saying, "Hey, look, we have to save money for the draft picks." So, yeah, Clelin Ferrell, good call. If you called it, good call. I think it was again. It's a move that's very similar to it's a move very similar to Arden Key. Again, it to me it screams Arden Key. So Cheesecake says Clelin hasn't played bad, but imagine the line now. Ferrell and Jackson sharing that side opposite of Bosa. Agree. You can rotate those guys together, and you don't have to rush Drake Jackson. You get a guy that can kind of help in there. And you got to remember, last year you had a rotation of Ebukam and Amenahu. Now you have a rotation of Clelin Ferrell and Drake Jackson. Drake Jackson's, 22 years old, 21, 22 years old. Clelin Ferrell's 25, so it's still a young guy with high upside. It's a low risk, a pretty high reward. I think that the 49ers put themselves in great position overall moving forward, but they still need another edge rusher. Clelin can be another Arden Key, says Ruthless 100%. That's exactly the way I see it. I mean, to me, it's a very similar story. You get a cast off from the Raiders who kind of was he was a bust. He comes to the 49ers. You have Kris Kocurek. The man works magic on people. He does miracles on people. And I feel like it's going to be a good, solid marriage for the 49ers and Clelin Ferrell. I think he'll get 5 to 6 sacks next year, and he'll be an excellent edge rusher for us. So we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take off for now. We'll be back a little live later. I just wanted to come on, share my thoughts on the whole Clelin Ferrell, Kris Kocurek type thing. Again, I feel like this is a great project. This is a project now for Kris Kocurek. They always give him these projects, and I think he does a great job. He knocks them out of the park. So I love Kris Kocurek, man. The guy's phenomenal, and you gave him another guy to go and work his magic on, and he's going to go and put some spell in his spell book, cook him in a pot, whatever he's got to do, and turn him into a solid contributor on this team. So we'll see y'all later. Tap in later. We'll be live again. Have a great rest of your day.